Alright boys, welcome back to another JJDL video, this time week 7 versus Lamau. We're currently on a 4-win streak. We made some transactions and Boulder has been absolutely carrying, but we're not quite in the playoff picture yet because of some pretty bad losses early on. Our differential could be better. I think it's +6 at this point, maybe +5. So we're currently the 6th seed and we have that ability to go, I think, down to the 10th seed if we lose both of these next games. So we want to secure at least one of the next 2 wins. I think we can do both. I think we have the matchup to do it, especially this week. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about that. And I do want to go ahead and give a fair warning. I don't know how this keeps happening. This is the 3rd time in 7 weeks in the JJDL. I'm sick. I feel horrible. This one's way worse than the last one. So I really hope that doesn't affect my play because I'm super excited for this team that we are bringing versus Lamau. But let's go ahead and talk about Lamau's team. So Lamau has a pretty scary team. He has Tornadus Therian, his Chi-Yu, Lando T, Metagross, Free Terra, Walking Wake, Decidueye, Weezingala, Ninetales, Terra, Avalugg, Hisui, and then I don't know what, Spidops? Spidops doesn't come. So he's got 9 Pokemon into us. I'd be shocked if we saw Spidops come. Let's talk about what Pokemon that I think that he could bring. And let's start with the Pokemon that he's not going to bring. Just be contradicting to what I first said. I don't think he brings Tornadus Therian. I think he has a super poor matchup. We have a Raging Bolt, we have an Iron Hands, or even Ursaluna doesn't care about it a whole lot. The only real reason I could see Tornadus coming is as added protection against Rillaboom potentially, but other than that, like, he has Chi-Yu for that, he has Metagross for that, he has really good ways to deal with Rillaboom otherwise, so I really don't see Tornadus Therian coming in this matchup. The 2 Pokemon that I think give us a very difficult time are going to be Chi-Yu and Walking Wake. Specifically, one set on the Chi-Yu that I do think comes is going to be Specs Modest. That set puts us in a blender, especially in the sun. Well, you know, let's go ahead and tag on Ninetales. He's going to bring Ninetales for the sun. So there's 3 Pokemon that I think he guaranteed brings. Chi-Yu, Specs, Overheat, Modest in the sun. He has the capability of being Modest because our next fastest Pokemon to 100 is Rillaboom. We don't really have great counterplay to this. I try to get a little creative and get my bag a little bit with a couple of different answers, but this Pokemon is very difficult for us to deal with. The Walking Wake is no easier. There are 3 Terra types specifically that I think he could bring, the first of which is Water. We don't have really good Hydro Steam resist, but this also makes him weak to Glide and Thunderclap, so I think he'll be a little hesitant to do that. The next one is Dragon. Dracos are very free into my team. We obviously have Fairy type Wigglytuff, so I think this one is very feasible. And then lastly, if he wants to hard call my Raging Bolt being Water, and that's not like literally the only reason why, I think he will be Terra Grass. Terra Grass does good specifically into Terra Water Raging Bolt, and it would kind of hard stuff the set that we are bringing, so I'm really hoping not to see that one. He can be a lot of different stuff. He could be an agility set, he could be a scarf set, but the set that I most anticipate is going to be special attack boosting Specs. That does not have a switch in. That plus Chi-Yu both kind of have the same checks, so they whittle down for each other, and they're very difficult for me to ever switch into or ever have any dream of switching into. Like I said, the only real switch in I have to Wake if he's not Terra Grass is going to be that Raging Bolt. So the combination of those 2 Pokemon, if he is Specs special attack boosting, he could also be Modest. Very difficult. Ninetales sucks, but he has to bring it if he wants Sun. I could see a world where he doesn't realistically bring it, which would make our lives a whole lot easier between Chi-Yu and Walking Wake, because it does that bad in the matchup. It just is such a bad Pokemon. This is why Torkoal is better, man. Do not draft Ninetales. Of course, Lamau didn't have the option, so I'm not harping on him here. Ninetales sucks, but I think it does come. Past that, the 2 Pokemon that I really do think come are going to be Metagross. Metagross gives him some counterplay to Iron Boulder, which otherwise he doesn't have, and Landorus. Landorus not only gives him a little bit more counterplay to Iron Boulder, it doesn't love switching in, especially not after hazards, but it gives him the potential to have rocks, it gives him an Intimidate pivot, it gives him a way to switch into my Bolt switches on my Raging Bolt. I think Lando makes a lot of sense. And it's going to have Weather Ball for my Skarmory, of course. The last slot can be a couple of different things. He could bring Tornadus, like I said, for the Rillaboom if he really wanted to. Decidueye, I don't think makes a lot of sense, but he could bring some sort of like AV or Spadef Decidueye, I suppose. Weezingala makes a lot of sense. Another Pokemon that can kind of be a blanket check to Iron Boulder. If I am a choice variant, I lock into Mighty Cleave, switches not on me. It's pretty cut and dry as far as that goes. And he could be Avalugg Hisui if he wants to commit his Terra to that instead of Wake. First of all, great news for us, but second of all, then he could hard check our Iron Boulder if he was to do that with like a Terra Ground on that Pokemon. So we'll see how that goes. The 5 I think that are locked in are Chi-Yu, Wake, Metagross, Ninetales, and Lando. As far as the Pokemon that we are bringing, shout out again to Amo for this first Pokemon. We're going to be taking his Spadef boosting Raging Bolt one more time because it's our only feasible check to a Terra Dragon Specs Modest special attack boosting Walking Wake. That is a mouthful, but worst case scenario, this guy is able to take 2 of those Draco Meteors. We have Assault Vest, obviously, it's really bad. We have the Assault Vest to potentially have any hope of taking hits from that Pokemon. We really want to get our Terra Water off this week because it helps with both the Chi-Yu and the Walking Wake, but we have to be careful because we're a check for both of those Pokemon and we get whittled by both of those Pokemon and put in range of the other one. We also have to be careful of Grass Terra Wake because that Pokemon just hard stuffs what we have here. Revolt Switch for momentum, Thunderclap for priority on things like Chi-Yu or Water Terra Wake. We also have Draco Meteor to hit things like Lando or Terra Dragon Wake, and then Terra Blast to hit the Chi-Yu outside of the sun. Like I said, I literally have this written down here. We can live 2 Specs Modest special attack boosting Draco Meteors after rocks in the sun, neutral to -2, not just 2 Dracos raw. So absolute worst case scenario in this entire game, we're able to take 2 hits from that Walking Wake, which is awesome that we have the capability to do that. I'm sure we also can take the Terra Grass hits from the Wake as well, but we obviously don't do any damage back, and Terra Grass specifically going to be a lot harder for our team to deal with, and Terra Grass would make sense too, because it covers Raging Bolt and Blastoise. I feel I'm a little under prepped for it, but I really think Terra Dragon makes an appearance over that, and I sure hope after this, right? We have enough speed, I believe it's to outspeed a Metagross creeping a 12-speed Blastoise, but I could be mistaken on that. I didn't write that down. I wrote down has as much speed as a different Pokemon that we have, but I changed that Pokemon's speed, so I'm kind of guessing here. And then we have as much special attack as we can go, and the rest into defense to still be special defense boosting. This Pokemon's very important. It's the glue. Again, huge shout out to Amo. Not only does he let me borrow his Raging Bolt, by the way, he goes through and he makes the right Terra type, gives it the right EVs, make sure the IVs are set properly. I mean, there's not much to do with that, but make sure the moves are set. Like, Amo goes through like an hour of work to do this and refuses payments. So if you guys are watching this far, just say thank you, Amo, in the comments, because this is literally a make or break Pokemon in this matchup, and Amo's supplying. Our next Pokemon, super cut and dry. Not going to talk about it super long. We've got Boulder, Big Shoulder Day, the hero of our season. We're going to be Scarf just to cover a potential Scarf or speed boosting Wake. I think it makes a lot of sense here, and I almost went Banded because I really do think the Specs special attack boosting Wake makes the most sense, but there is that possibility that he's speed boosting, and I want to cover that, especially since we have a check to the special attack boosting. So we went Scarf. We outspeed everything on his team. We have Quick Attack for like some extra coverage, I guess, some extra priority just in case we need it, in case he's like Agility Wake or whatever. We have Mighty Cleave because it's pretty unresisted, Psycho Cut to hit the Wheezing Galar, and Earthquake to hit the Metagross. It's pretty simple. We are as much speed as we need, which is to outspeed. We have enough speed to outspeed the Walking Wake, because I didn't really feel it was necessary to outspeed Torrent, because even if it does come, I really don't think it's going to be Scarf in this matchup. I think it's probably like AV or Boots. And then we went Max Attack, the rest into HP, with a rock-friendly number of HP. This Pokemon here is a Revenge Killer. With a couple mocks I did with Obo, shout out to Obo, by the way, for helping me test this. I didn't actually change anything, I don't think, from the mocks. It was a pretty set team. I did change his moveset, but I only clicked Mighty Cleave, so it wasn't because of that. It was just because I decided to change it. Anyway, this Pokemon's a Revenge Killer. It's to catch the Chi-Yu, potential Scarf off guard, to catch the Walking Wake off guard, and do a ton of damage with that Mighty Cleave. Our next Pokemon is the most important Pokemon in this matchup, and it got anywhere from 2 to 6 kills in the 3 mocks that I did with Obo. I think it actually went 2, 4, 6. It might have been 5. I might be making stuff up. But we're Ursaluna Bloodmoon. We're Silk Scarf. This is our guaranteed lead, because unless he leads Charles Youth or unless he leads Walking Wake, we have a great matchup against literally anything except Specs Modest Ninetales. We can live a non-modest hit, but once it gets modest, it gets a little dicey. I don't think it's going to be modest, though. Maybe. I don't think it's going to be Specs in the first place, but we're Moonlight for recovery, Vacuum Wave for priority, but the main draw here is going to be Blood Moon plus Earth Power. Silk Scarf Blood Moon is unresisted on our opponent's team besides the Metagross, and if he's not AV, we do 50% with the Blood Moon. If he is AV, we Blood Moon into Earth Power, and that Pokemon dies, because we are an extremely fast Blood Moon. We outspeed, I think it's the same thing as Raikou, as Raging Bolt, sorry, right? I think we outspeed the something creeping Blastoise, so we basically outspeed like base 80s. So this Pokemon, extremely fast. It's not bulky at all this week. We are just here to do as much damage as possible and click Blood Moon as much as possible. This is going to be the lead. We're going to try to pick a Pokemon off immediately, And in the mocks, it's done that pretty much every time. There was one time Charles Youth was led, in which case we just made an appropriate switch. But this Pokemon's crazy, man. I'm very excited to use it in this matchup. Next up, we've got Uncle Mike, another Assault Vest user, of course, where Fake Out, Drain Punch, Ice Punch, and Heavy Slam. Heavy Slam gonna be for the Wheezing Galar, Fake Out to stall some turns, as well as potentially get some extra chip on something like Chi-Yu or Walking Wake. Drain Punch for longevity, and then Ice Punch to hit a potential Landotherian switch in. So we're pretty much max Spadef on this Pokemon. We're max Spadef with the remainder in attack, and this is the bulkiest Iron Hands that I brought. And this one was almost a different set that I don't want to reveal because it is possible Lamau and I play in playoffs, but basically this Pokemon is not here to check anything in particular. It's here is more of a blanket switch in. If Chi-Yu is specs locked into Dark Pulse, we can go into Iron Hands. If Wake is -2 on Draco, we can go into Iron Hands. Its health isn't super critical here. It's more so just it can take those hits. It's just a good Spadef sponge. We have checks to everything else, so Iron Hands can come in and kind of clean up once everything is said and done. It's just so powerful with that base 140 attack stat, and we made it especially bulky, pretty much especially bulky as we possibly could. Our Spadef allows us to live a specs modest Chi-Yu Fire Blast in the sun after 2 rounds of rocks, so 12%. So again, pretty much as bulky as we can possibly be, take pretty much any special hit and dish out a ton of damage in return. The next Pokemon, not important at all. This was kind of a throwaway slot because I didn't really like anything in this slot here. I switched around between the last two, basically. We're Skarmory here in the Stone matchup, which is really weird, but it's because hazards are so good into our opponent. Wheezing is a potential defogger, but Wheezing's a free Ursaluna Bloodmoon every single time, so I'm not worried about that. Decidueye is a potential defogger. Be a little surprised to see Decidueye in this matchup, and Skarmory obviously beats Decidueye anyway, as far as I'm aware at least. We're Roost, we're Stealth Rock, we're Spike, we're Body Press. This mon is not here to do really anything except get those hazards up, and if it turns out there is a world in which this Pokemon can live, we have Roost, in which it can be annoying, we have Roost. This is pretty much here because it's our switch into Metagross, right? Like, we don't have great Metagross counterplay, but we do have Skarmory, which is fantastic Metagross counterplay. It's just our one counterplay to Metagross. We come in on Metagross, we get a Rock Up, we get a Spike Up pretty free. Roost for longevity, just in case we need, like I said. We outspeed a 24 speed Landorus just because we could potentially get another hazard up, and then we went to Rest and to Physical Bulk with a rock friendly number of HP. Not important at all, just Metagross switch in and we can get a hazard up every time Metagross switches out on us. Lastly, we keep bringing this guy with this exact set. We're AV Blastoise. Once again, exact same set. Jet, Flip Turn, Body Press, Rapid Spin. We're Rapid Spin because he does have a few potential hazard options. We're Jet because priority on something like the Charles Youth. Flip Turn for momentum, Body Press to hit things like the Wake for literally any damage at all. And like I said, Rapid Spin because he has hazard options. We're very Spadef here. We can live 2 specs modest Dark Pulses from Chi-Yu or 2 Fire Blasts in the sun. We don't do any damage back to the Walking Wake at all, unfortunately, and we don't really do great damage to the Chi-Yu. Another reason why I attacked on Body Press. That was the most damage that I saw that we could potentially do to the combination of those two Pokemon with the last slot. Blastoise is basically going to come in on a Specs Chi-Yu hit, force the Chi-Yu out, click Flip Turn, and hopefully get Ursaluna Bloodmoon in on the Metagross or on the Wheezing Galar. That's kind of the thought process here, and that's going to be the team, guys. Very crucial. We get Ursaluna Bloodmoon in to do as much damage as possible. We can win in the late game with Iron Boulder. We're pretty much just a bulky offensive team this week, trying to outbulk our opponent, which is tough with Chi-Yu and Walking Awake, but I think that we had the team to do it. Shout out to Sunny for editing this video, shout out to Amo for the Raging Bolt, and shout out to Obo for the mocks. Thank you guys so much for watching, and for now, guys, this has been John Jr. signing off. And let's start with the Pokemon that he's not going to bring and be very contradicting. My brain's not really working.